Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Denmark once again, and we're going to revisit one of the breweries that you've seen me review a good number of things from before. But this particular beer is one that I bought a number of years ago, and it was sitting in one of my boxes that I keep my kind of special occasion long-term beers in. But I noticed this one was about to go out of date, so I thought we should crack it open and see how we get on with it. And yeah, very curious to see how it turns out. So for this review we're going to return to Mikkeller, the famous Danish gypsy brewery, and we're having a taste of the Monk's Brew today. From what I gather, this beer is also known as the Monk's Elixir, but I'll put both names in the title, but this is basically a 10% Quadrupel, which is a style that I really enjoy. When it comes to Belgian style beers, I love the Tripels, I love the Quadrupels, and the Blondes as well are another favourite of mine. But really looking forward to trying this one. If memory serves me correctly, this might actually be one of the first Belgian style beers that I've had from Mikkeller. I mean, I've had some saisons and things like this, but this is the first sort of Abbey style Belgian blonde beer that I've had from them, if memory serves correctly. So very curious to see how it turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. I did see that this one had quite recently been released once again in cans when I was over in Copenhagen, so yeah, check it out if you get the chance. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before I open up the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Mikkeller before. No doubt I will add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Mikkeller then, on to my brewery notes. So as I mentioned earlier, these guys are the famous Danish gypsy brewery that were originally founded by Christian Keller and Mikkel Bjergso, although it is now of course only Bjergso who is running the company, and he used to be a physics and maths teacher. But again, these guys are very influenced by the American craft beer movement, and basically they started out as the home brewing experimentations of Christian and Mikkel and grew from there. Christian left the company quite early on because he wanted to kind of have a core range of beers, whereas Mikkel really wanted to brew lots of different things and experiment, and that's what Mikkeller has become very famous for. Christian, from what I understand, works for, I think it's Soundhouse magazine, it's called, one of the big music magazines in Copenhagen. But for a long time these guys didn't have their own brewery, but rather they brewed a variety of kind of host breweries, mainly in America, Scotland and Belgium, I think a little bit in Norway as well. Much of their beer was brewed at the Prof Brouwerij in Locriste Hefte in Ghent in Belgium, and I think some of their bigger volume things are still brewed there, but most of their beers are actually brewed by themselves these days. But their home base as such was the Mikkeller bar in Copenhagen, which was on Victoriagade, and they also had a collaboration bar with Toil, whose founders are former students of Mikkel's. In April 2016 though, they took over AleSmith's former brewery in San Diego after they had moved on to a larger space, and then the following year in 2017 they announced that they would establish a second brewery in Citi Field, which is home of the New York Mets in New York City, and there's a good number of the beers starting to appear in Copenhagen now from those two breweries. But they also now have a location in Copenhagen which is called Baghaven. This is where they experiment with sour beers. They've got 12 oak fodders there which range from 3,000 to 7,000 litres, and they've got 50 different 225 litre California Chardonnay barrels in which they age their beers as well. The beer itself is brewed at War Pigs, and then they transport it up and then age the beers and blend them and things like that there. But they've got various bars around the place now too. So they've got ones in Barcelona, there's one in Berlin I think as well, Warsaw, Bucharest, Stockholm, Reykjavik, Tórshavn up in the Faroe Islands, Tokyo, Seoul, Taipei, Singapore, and they've got various locations around Copenhagen and San Diego and Bangkok now as well. One of the ones I really would recommend that you check out if you get the chance is the ramen tobiru. It's very difficult to find ramen that is as authentic as the ones you'll get in Ramen Tobiru because their chefs are Japanese, so I really would recommend that you check out Ramen Tobiru and War Pigs is really pretty bloody good as well. That's their collaboration brew pub that they have with Three Floyds from Munster in Indiana. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Mikkeller just now. A very, very famous craft brewery these days, a very, very well known name in the craft beer world, and their beers tend to be pretty damn good, I have to say. So if you haven't already, I do recommend that you check them out. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So as you can see, this one, I quite like this actually, the Monk's Brew, the old classic Mikkeller artwork on this. You know, that's one of the things that they really became quite famous for as well. I think this is a bottle that I will need to keep a hold of, because this is one of the first Mikkeller beers that I ever bought, but I did keep it because I was told keep it and age it actually. Belgian dark ale, this one, but they're saying on Untappd and things that this one is a quadrupel. So it says the types of malt that they have in here are Pilsner and Pale. They've got some candy syrup in there, some Cassinade sugar as well, and it uses Northern Brewer, Hallertau and Styrian Goldings hops in there. So a nice little mix of American, German and Slovenian hops too. So yeah, quite cool. And the artwork on this one is by Keith Shore. I was trying to remember the guy's name there. Plain bottle cap on this one, as you can see, and you know, it doesn't actually say that. Yeah, it says the date on this one is the 23rd of the 5th, 2019. So it is actually very slightly out of date. But when it comes to a beer that's this high in alcohol, to be honest, it's not really going to matter at this point. And I think when I was home last year, I would have left it because I thought I would be coming home earlier than that. But let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. 10% quadrupel. There you can see some nice smoky notes coming out of this one. Well, some nice haze of, I don't know what to say, but yeah, nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. With these Belgian beers, you just have to watch that the head doesn't go absolutely crazy, but I think we've got it just at a nice level now. So there you go, lovely pour on this one. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely dark ebony kind of rosewoody colour. If I put the light through it, it is actually, you're not going to really see it on the camera to be honest, but it is actually a very lovely dark ruby colour. I'll bring it up to the camera and just let you see that. Maybe you'll see some of the edges there. Actually, just looking at the camera control, it does look a little bit more like an imperial stout or something, but trust me, this is a very nice dark rubyish colour. You can see there's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say medium beige head on this one. It looks very, very nice. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. There are a few bits of sediment kind of floating around in this one. It will be bottle conditioned, but you know, it looks very, very nice. It's all natural and nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider that it is a Belgian quadrupel, or a Belgian strong dark ale as they are calling it. But yeah, let's take a look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh, I tell you something, that smells absolutely beautiful. I mean, obviously when you think of a quadrupel, you think of, like, you know, the Vesletron 12, you think about Rochefort 12, you know, there's a few other ones in there. La Trappe Quadrupel is also very good, I quite like that one. And this one, you know, it really has the same levels of aroma and things. They've done, the aroma here is beautiful. How much of that is down to the aging, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it would have been a good idea to get the can as well and do a comparison, to be honest. But I think this is absolutely lovely. This is definitely a beer for a special occasion, and I'm going to share this one with my dad afterwards. But this is a beautiful beer smell in this one. So straight away your nose is going to be kind of inundated with these nice kind of brown bready base notes. There's a lot of brown sugar in here. It does smell very, very caramelised and sweet. There's a little bit of a toasty element in there as well, which is nice, but really it's quite a syrupy. I don't know if it's quite dark enough to be treacle, but it's a very rich, smooth, sweet caramel that's coming out of this one. A little bit of a woody quality to it underneath as well. Maybe it does have a good little bit of a nutty note in there as well. Exactly what nuts, I couldn't tell you. Pecans, maybe? Hazelnuts? But definitely some nice nutty elements coming out of it too. A little bit of a woody quality, as I was saying. There's almost a little bit of a slightly, you know, oaky vanilla kind of thing in there too, which is nice. But lots of brown sugars. It's very sweet, very slightly toasty. I don't think dark enough to be treacle, but it's very kind of syrupy in terms of its aroma. I think that's definitely fair to say. I could sit and smell this one all day, to be quite honest with you. It smells absolutely lovely. In terms of hoppiness, you know, there's not really much coming out of this. There's maybe a teeny bit of earthiness and grassiness. All the hops that are in there, the Northern Brewer is going to give you a little bit more of a floral note from what I remember, but the Hallertau and the Styrian Goldings, they're very much, Hallertau is a noble hop, Styrian Goldings is very similar in its characteristics to a noble hop, so it's going to give you just a bit of grassiness and floral quality when the beer is quite young. But at this stage in time, after about 5 years or whatever, you know, the hop quality is going to have dropped, or the hop presence is going to have dropped quite a bit out of the aroma. I do think that I bought this beer in the original Brewdog bar. It must have been back in 2013, 2014, something like that. So this one I have had for a good wee while actually. I think I bought this one not long after I started the channel, to be honest with you. But yeah, that smells absolutely lovely. You can definitely smell some of that cassonade sugar in there. I did have another beer that had cassonade sugar in it about a year or two ago. And it's lovely. I mean, it gives you this really bright, it gives you like a really kind of bright brown sugar quality actually, and you can really pick that out in this beer. It almost smells kind of candied and fruity, but it's got that lovely sweet brown base to it, the cassonade sugar, from what I remember. On the fruity side of things though, this is another place where this beer comes across really nicely. There's definitely some raisiny notes in there, a little bit of sultana as well. I mean, you've got dates, figs, prunes, even a little bit of a sharper plummy and raisiny quality coming out of this beer as well. It really just smells absolutely beautiful. As I say, I'm not sure how much of the aroma is down to the aging with these beers. Sometimes, from what I gather, some of the brown sugars can come out a little bit more in the aging process, and the fruits can sometimes just sharpen up a little bit. So maybe it would, maybe compared to what it would be new, it smells a little bit more juicy and a little bit more sweet than it would have been before. But regardless, I'm sure even in its original state, if you like, it would come across as a very nice beer, but maybe just a little bit darker in terms of the brown sugar qualities. But overall, just take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer. These Belgian quadrupels and or Belgian strong dark ales, however you want to term it, these always give you a real treat in terms of the aroma. But let's have a go at this one then and just see how we got on. This one is the Monk's Elixir, or Monk's Brew, known by both names, from Mikkeller, the famous Danish gypsy brewery over in Copenhagen in Denmark. Let's get stuck into this one. This is one of the original brews. I'm filming this for you on the 1st of September 2019, but this beer was released I think way back in 2014, 2015, something like that. But let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. Compared to some of the other ones that I've come across with the Belgian quadrupels, this one, it comes across as a little bit darker. And you can tell, I think this one is a little bit boozier than 10%. I think it would have been, back then, it probably would have been bottle conditioned and been allowed to age a little bit, so probably it is a little bit higher in alcohol content than 10%. You can kind of tell that a little bit from the flavour. But this is definitely a sipper. It's very, very nice. I really like how this is going together. I mean, these quadrupels, for me, they never really stand out in any one regard. It's all just about how these flavours blend together. And this one's absolutely beautiful. So let's try and kind of pin down some of these flavours, if you like. So across the middle of your palate, you can feel a little bit of that malt base in there, the Pilsner and the pale malt. Just, you can feel the lightness of that there, but it really almost feels a little bit more like it's kind of brown bready, to be honest with you. And it almost tastes a little bit like if you have one of these wafer biscuits that you put in an ice cream cone and then you put caramel sauce over it. That's how the base of the beer feels. I think that's a good way to describe it. And it just covers the whole middle of your palate there. And it's interesting what's going on in the middle of your palate too. There's aspects of the centre of your tongue that can feel a little bit dark and boozy, but there's other bits that really feel kind of quite sweet, which is nice. So if you go to the very centre of your palate, you're going to get that nice dark, boozy, brown sugary quality there. That's the darkest brown sugar you're going to get in this. But as you move further out from the centre of your palate, you do get a little bit of a treacly molasses kind of thing to this one. I wasn't picking that up in the aroma. The aroma did come across as more sweet than that. But there is a really dark, kind of strong, treacle molassesy quality to this beer, which is nice. The cassonade sugar, I suspect, is coming out just a little bit beyond that. If you go to the centre of your palate, booziness, and move out a little bit, that's where you're getting the dark, kind of treacly molasses kind of things in there. And then as you move further out from that, you get the kind of, you do get that cassonade sugar. I think the candy syrup, it did say on the back here that we put a little bit of candy syrup in this one. You know, you can really pick that out there as well, because as you move out towards the edge of your tongue, the brown sugars start to get brighter and more caramelly and slightly biscuity, if you like. It's almost a balance between a sweet caramel and a sort of biscuity quality that's in line with like McVitie's digestives. It really reminds me of that. There's a lot going on in this beer, and the further you go into the aftertaste as well, if you just go to the front corners of your palate, move back a little bit, and inside there's a bit of a woody quality in there. And if you're looking for the nutty notes, because there is definitely nuts in there, go to the centre of your palate and then just gradually concentrate on your tongue going forward, because the nutty qualities come out there too. There is maybe a little touch of vanilla in here, which is interesting, but yeah. Yeah. But if I compare this to some of the Abbey quadrupels and things that I've had, that is very, very good. I mean, it's a difficult style to get right, to be honest with you, and the only way that you can probably learn that is if you actually go to one of the Trappist breweries and learn it from them. I don't know how they would have got, it either would have taken a hell of a lot of experimentation to get this style right, or they went to one of the breweries over in Belgium, or the Netherlands, of course, the De Konings brewery is in the Netherlands. But they've obviously maybe gone over there and learned it a little bit, or experimented like hell to arrive at this recipe. Either that, or they could have just found it online, who knows. But yeah, this is really, really good. And very authentic. I'm trying to think. If I compare it to the other ones, this one, it's a little bit darker than the likes of La Trappe and the Westy 12 and the other ones. That's the thing that I think separates this one a little bit. It's very, very authentic, but just the way the brown sugars come across in this one is a little bit dark, because you will feel that this beer just dries out in the centre of your palate a little bit, and then you start to get some of the woody elements pushing their way out of the flavour. So it's nice that, as I say, the thing that separates this for me is just it's a little bit darker than some of those Trappist examples that I've had before. But it's a beautiful beer, this, and it gets a massive thumbs up from me. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I do hope I can get a little try of this at one of the Mikkeller bars and try it fresh. I need to film that for you at some point. But yeah, for me, in terms of the hoppy side of the beer, you can pick up a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of your palate, but it's quite sweet, which is what you would expect from the noble hops in here. I'm surprised that any of the hoppy qualities are still lingering in this one, but definitely a bit of earthiness in the back corners of your palate, and that builds a good bridge between the slightly darker aspects of the brown sugar that this beer has. But as you come further forward, you can feel that earthiness just spreading there. There is a little tiny hint of a floral quality on the front corners of your palate, but you can pick up some grassiness around the front curve of your tongue. And as I say, it's really surprising that when you consider what age this beer actually is. As I say, I suspect I've had this about 5 or 6 years, probably about 5.5, something like that. But on the fruity side of things, this is where the beer really shows some good levels of complexity. It's really very nice. So yeah, on that fruity side of things then, I would say the beer comes in at first, you get a little bit of sharpness initially, but then it really just rolls out to be kind of juicy and fruity, and the further you go into the aftertaste, it actually becomes a little bit more sort of cakey and boozy in that sense. It's almost like an alcoholic Christmas cake in some ways. I think it's fair to describe the fruitiness like that. It's definitely got some of that sort of phenolic, medicinal quality to it. But yeah, so the fruitiness in this beer for me, it's not quite as sharp as the aroma might have had you believe, but there's some prunes in there, a little bit of a fig. I do think some datey qualities in there. It's almost a bit more like sultanas, this one, and the further you go into the aftertaste, it starts to lean more towards that kind of sultana, like a sort of dried white grapey quality, something like that. And you start to get more of the kind of figgy qualities in there too. But some of the tongue is drying out and becoming a little bit darker, which is really quite unusual, to be quite honest with you. So I like how all of this goes together, and you really get that kind of medicinal, almost Cavonia type quality out of this beer too. This is a really, really interesting one, and it's cool to see that this beer has aged well over the last 5 years or so. This is probably one of the, I think this might actually be the first heavily aged beer that I've reviewed for you on the channel, and that's one of the exciting things about doing this. I'll need to buy some more higher alcohol ones and just keep them and see how we get on. So yeah, I need to think about some projects to do with that over the next little while, because this one has proved to be very, very interesting. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, I would say that this one is pretty full-bodied. The carbonation is really smooth. It's a big oily mouthfeel, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, big oily mouthfeel. The malty and yeasty side of things, because this is, you know, you have to remember Belgian beer is quite focused on the yeast. The sort of in the centre of your palate where you're going to get the adjuncts, the yeast and the malt, that comes across as being very, very sweet. It does dry out a little bit and become darker the further you go into the beer. There's a little bit of hoppy bitterness in there. I think you're lucky with this beer if you get maybe 20 IBUs out of it. But you've got a lovely juicy fruity quality, and it's almost a little bit sort of medicinal as well, to be honest with you, which is kind of nice. It's a little bit medicinal in its fruity quality. It's definitely cakey, cough syrupy and boozy, but I mean overall it's been really cool to review this one for you. It's made me think a lot about the Quadrupel style, and also a little bit about aging some more beers to review for you here on the channel. So yeah, really cool to review this one for you. Let's leave it at that. The Monk's Brew, also known as the Monk's Elixir, a 10% Quadrupel from Mikkeller. This must have been one of the first heavy alcohol Mikkeller beers that I've brought, and I've really enjoyed reviewing this one for you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this one as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Mikkeller as well. Pardon me. And if you get the chance to try this beer, they have just done a rerun of it, so you might get lucky if you've got a good beer shop close to you that stocks Mikkeller. Very impressed with this one, and it's cool to open up something that I've had for quite a little while. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. This is the Monk's Brew, also known as the Monk's Elixir, from Mikkeller, originally in Copenhagen in Denmark. Slanje, skål, cheers, thanks for watching.